Hello, welcome to Trans Catholic videos, entries, whatever. Happy Christmas to you all, everybody who's watching. I hope you had a very nice Christmas. I had a brilliant Christmas, and I feel that I come to love Jesus even more after this Christmas, which is great because it's never bad to, love Jesus more. Today, I went to the gym and I thought, what better way to get some juice in me, to lift those weights, but to listen to a transphobic Catholic podcast. I got enough juice, alright? I lifted those weights like I have never lifted them before. I'm kidding. I got very angry. So I thought, instead of getting angry and dwelling on it, sorry, my cat is sabotaging me there. Instead of getting angry and falling into self-pity and depression and self-hatred and this and that, I thought, well, why not be the other voice and the voice of transgender people? So the podcast that I watched is called Catholic Answer, something, I don't know, I just saw, to be honest with you, I just wanted to listen to something spiritual, something Catholic. As I was working out, it's a little icon on podcasts. It said something. It was Jesus, and it said focus. And I was like, you know what? I do feel like I need focusing a little bit and spirituality, kind of to open my heart more. I felt to be blocked, so I thought, why not? Anyway, as it happens, I had to scroll down because it seems that you smell them, you smell the transphobia. So I kind of scrolled until I didn't scroll that much. It was like fourth podcast or fifth podcast from the top. It was like, I don't remember exactly what it's called. I will not bother looking at it right now, but something like, what would Thomas Aquinas say about transgenderism? I'm sorry, that's my cat. Like, she never plays by herself. She always bothers me to play with her. So let's talk about that. What would Thomas Aquinas say about transgenderism? For me, it's just so funny and frustrating that people will talk for an hour about a topic they know nothing about. And even through this podcast that I was listening to, I certainly don't recommend listening to it, but if you want, I'm pretty sure it's called Catholic Answer. Anyway, if you can't find it, leave a comment and I will check just for you, and I will let you know what it's exactly called if that's not it, but I'm pretty sure it's Catholic Answer. So yes, my biggest frustration about people talking about something they know nothing about. In this case, about transgender people. I mean, transgenderism and transgender movement is the first words they use, first expressions they use about trans people. And even from the beginning, for me, it's ridiculous, really, because you can't claim to know anything about trans people and still call us and our identity transgenderism or transgender movement. Listening to a podcast, I didn't listen to the whole thing because I finished my workout. It was that good of a podcast that I just managed to finish my workout before I finished the podcast. I didn't really. I'm gonna cut this out, but I was actually needed to do my abs. That was my chest, Sorry, disclaimer. They got a priest onto their podcast, so the priest talked to them. I never managed to listen to the end because I didn't. Maybe I should have. You know what? I didn't listen to the whole podcast because it's not good for my mental health. The part that I did listen to, it was enough for me to make a judgment of it not being good for my mental health. And why isn't it good for my mental health? Because people who know nothing about trans people or about transness or what trans people go through talking for an hour with another priest, about how trans people are disordered. And to me, it hurts me and it breaks my heart, because it's Catholicism, and me being Catholic, it's something very important to me. It's very close to my personal identity of who I am. So when people use Catholicism and saints in order to discriminate against others, I get upset. I mean, I think that's normal, to get upset about these things. I was at Mass now, just came back from Mass. I was praying, trying to figure out if Jesus wanted me to make this video, because it certainly, some of the inspiration was coming from some angry parts of me after listening to that, and just kind of being hit again with the transphobia in the Catholic Church. Another very important thing I would say that they mentioned, and these are now the things I'm just kind of vocalizing it all, but in order to expand on it more. Yes, but the other one was, I don't know, I'm so sorry, this is so difficult for me, because there's so many things that I want to say, and so many things that they said that I was just like, this just makes no sense, and it just shows me that you have no idea what you're talking about. I think I listened for like about a half an hour of the podcast, which is honestly more than I should have. And in these half an hour, Jesus wasn't mentioned at all. God wasn't mentioned at all. What was mentioned is a theology of a dead man who, at the end of his life, wanted to burn everything that he ever wrote. So, well done. And yes, so let's expand on some of these things that I mentioned. First of all, I just, I'm here for trans people, and because for all trans people, but especially religious trans people, Christian trans people, and Catholic trans people, transgenderism isn't a thing. And I want you to know that there's, you are not a movement. Your existence isn't a movement. The transgender movement that they keep mentioning, that's not you. You are just a human being who is living honestly and who is trying to figure out their place in this world and in front of God. To the transphobics and the people who use theology in order to spread their ignorance and transphobia, I want to say, we're not a movement. Like, what is it? What is it about that? Like, you have feminism, you have sexism, and you have transgenderism. It's offensive, to say the least. And honestly, if any of these people have spent 5 minutes talking to another trans person, they would, quite frankly, know clearly that being trans isn't a decision. And every trans person that is telling you that they are trans, they're just being honest. And I know that it can be difficult to understand, and I have all the compassion on people who are struggling to understand trans people but are trying. But it's difficult for us too. You don't think that trans people struggle for years trying to understand how, like, what is that inside of me that is unable to stay silenced, and why is it so different to my body? It's a difficult thing. So it's not just difficult for you to understand, it's also difficult for a transgender person to understand. And at that point, when we cannot silence our hearts anymore, that's the point where we just choose honesty. So every trans person that is telling you about their transness and about their gender identity is a person who just simply has been given a lot of grace to be honest, and they can't just not be honest, and just be like, okay, you know what, I'm just gonna pretend to be who they say I am in order for my life to be more pleasant. Believe me, my life would be a lot more easier if I was just a woman and could live as a woman. I would most certainly, but you know how easy my life would be if I was just like, oh, yes, you know what, I'm not a trans man, I'm actually a woman, and everybody was right, and the church is right, and trans people are so degenerate. If I said that, I think I would be made a saint before I'm dead. Like, my canonization will be there in Vatican in a week's time. And I will be loved, and I will be supported, and I will be embraced in the Catholic Church. But because of my inability to lie, but I have to be honest, and say the truth, and just like every other trans person, just we go what we go through. But that's a good thing, because that shows us, the reality of spirituality, the reality of the cross. When you're carrying the cross, you're not going to be liked. Jesus wasn't liked when he was carrying the cross. He had, a few people around him, but let's not forget that he was scourged and killed and left alone. So let's just kind of reflect on that for a second. So choose honesty, you're going to suffer, or choose dishonesty, and, well, you're not going to be living in the truth. Like today, actually, the first reading was the reading of first letter of John, and you know what? Maybe you should read it. I only have one phone, so I can't Google now which exactly verse was it. Seamus, can you remind me, please? What was it? Well, Saint John said that if we say that we are without sin, that we are basically lying, and that we are not living in the truth. So it doesn't really apply to this one, although we are all sinners. Cis, trans, gay, straight, doesn't matter. We're all sinners. But it is, if you're not saying the truth, you are not going to be living in the truth. Obviously, you're not going to be living in the light, in God's light. Another thing is that Saint Thomas Aquinas, apart from wanting to burn everything he ever wrote, that these people cling on to when it comes to transphobia, and also he did say some pretty interesting things that could be used as pro-trans things. But the problem with Catholic people, and any people, but I'm talking about Catholic people now, the problem with Catholic people who use theology to support their transphobia is that they're just working off their own opinions. And even listening to that podcast, I was kind of disgusted by the smug joy that I could feel in their voices as they were speaking. I just got this strong sense of yes, you're right, this makes so much sense. These trans people are just so dumb, so stupid, and we are right. There are a few laughs, a few words said in ways that it really hit me. Oh, how happy these people are to talk bad things about trans people. The whole podcast, the first 30 minutes that I listened to was basically a gossip party against trans people. Never mentioning Jesus or his love, mercy, or his death, sacrifice, and everything that he did. But no, just these awful trans people that don't know what they're talking about. Do you know what Thomas Aquinas also said? That on a soul's journey towards heaven and God, spiritual purification and just spiritual growth, that it's most important thing for that person to follow their conscience. And he isn't the only one who said that. I'm pretty sure Saint John, in one of his letters, said that as well, when he said that if our conscience doesn't accuse us in front of God, we are blameless in front of God. That was John, right? Thanks. Sorry, I have my theologian here, so I can check.
Now, because first she thinks she knows she's doing wrong.
She knows she's being bad. She knows. She knows.
She's like, they're ignoring me, so I'm going to get their attention. That's
Okay,
not
good job.
really.
So, this might be a little bit of a mess. I said a lot of things, and like I said, I'm sort of being vulnerable here because it's difficult for me to listen to these things, and because, you know, I've been living in my Catholic bubble and I like it. So, even doing this video is kind of difficult for me because I have to get out of my Catholic bubble. But I have been surrounded by people who support me and by priests who support me for the last 3 years, ever since I had my conversion. So I want to finish this video by being that trans person to listen to if you really want to talk about trans people so much. Fortunately, I don't know many trans people who are Catholic. I know a few, but from my point of view, not from my point of view, but from my, you know, experience in the world and growing up, a lot of my relationship with God, not a lot, most of my relationship with God was always kind of was being built upon my gender identity and on my masculine gender identity. God's acceptance and God's love towards me as his son was something that just built, you know, that helped me trust God more, that helped me believe in God more, and that helped me, you know, give more of my heart and surrender more of my heart and life to God. And he still hasn't turned me into anything else than who I am. In fact, everything about me has only been strengthened. And I don't know, I've just, ever since I started praying, going to mass, going to confession, and contemplating a lot and just doing a lot, I just became more of a man than I ever was before. So thank you, Jesus, and praise you, Jesus. What else to say? But in order to talk about trans people, you actually have to know trans people. And to all trans people watching this, you are not an ism, you are not an illness, you are not a disorder, you are you. And work on your relationship with God, with Jesus, and let Jesus explain more things to you, let Jesus heal you more, strengthen you more, and let your identity, female, male, or none of the above, just grow with your identity. Thank you, Seamus. With your identity in Jesus, you know, being his creation and being someone that he loves. And you know what, at the end of the mass, when the priest said, go out and spread the good news is there. The good news is that Jesus died for us all. He is God. He created us. He knows us. He loves us. So that's the good news. I'm telling it now to you. And also, don't do what I did. I will do it for you. Just don't listen to transphobic Catholic podcasts. It doesn't make any sense. So yes, this is not an activism. This is not politics. This is a personal experience of people, and you cannot use theology to label trans people as disordered, or to just don't base your theology on making someone ill. Sorry. Don't base your theology on this pretense that trans people are disordered or diseased, because we're not. We're real. We have feelings as well. and some of us are in the church too, and some of us possibly pray more than you do. So not that it is about that, it's about completely giving your life to God, to Jesus, and letting him do with you whatever you want. And yet I've done that, I'm doing that, and I'm still a man. So if I change in the future, praise God. You know what? Praise God. But I hope I won't, because I'm just really sick of God being used for transphobia. Like, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you're doing all right. I hope you're having a nice Christmas tide. Is that what you call it? Christmas tide. I hope you're having a great Christmas tide, and Happy New Year. I don't believe in New Year, but that's not that's not a conversation for this video. And God bless you, my trans Catholics. Bye bye.